Senator Kristen Gillibrand put out a comment yesterday saying that housing is infrastructure, childcare is infrastructure, rainbows and unicorns are infrastructure. My question is that really true? When we talk about infrastructure, are we talking about roads and bridges in this conversation? Is that what that word means? Or is now everything that the Democrats want to be infrastructure is infrastructure because that's how you get a bill passed? So that would be my question to start the conversation.
It's great to be on with Mick. When I was offered this opportunity, I jumped at it because, first of all, I haven't talked with Mick in a while, and I miss you, Mick. But I think the perspective that the Biden administration has, and with which I agree, is that infrastructure is whatever supports the economy and supports the ability of the American people to sustain a good standard of living. And we've seen during the pandemic how important the availability of childcare is, how many people have had to care for their parents, what went on with nursing homes. So, yes, I think it's substantially part of the infrastructure, not just current infrastructure, but certainly a future infrastructure. As we have, 10,000 people, 10,000 Americans a day are turning 65. We are an aging country, and we're going to have to deal with this basic infrastructure for supporting our senior citizens. So, absolutely.
And I guess my response, Joe, would be is that using that definition, then Social Security is infrastructure. Medicare is infrastructure because they are necessary parts of making the economy sort of stable. So I'm disappointed that that's the conversation, just because I think part of the difficulty we have in Washington, D.C. is we use different language for different things. If one person says infrastructure these days, it means one thing. If another says something else, it means something different. So, and I think that may be one of the reasons that we're struggling with this, with the bipartisanship, that if the Democrats are going to use reconciliation again, and then maybe again and again, I think that's probably the best evidence that there's no bipartisan support for this bill because of what John just mentioned, because we don't even have a basic understanding as to what infrastructure is.
Mick makes a reasonable point. Where I would differ with him is that we have not gotten any input from Republicans. And if the Republican position is the only thing that counts as infrastructure or roads and bridges, then we're not only doing our constituents a disservice, we're doing our future constituents a disservice. Anybody who doesn't think that schools, that broadband, that electric charging stations are not infrastructure of the future, then I think you're missing the point. And what we've seen is Republicans, particularly in the Senate, and so I excuse you, Mick. The Republicans in the Senate have really never had an idea or been interested in governing in any way. And Mitch sat on 400 bills, many of them bipartisan, in the last Congress, just because he could and just because he didn't want to give Democrats any victories. So if your frame of reference in the Congress, and I think Mick would agree with me, this has been true on both sides for a long time, if your frame of reference is only electoral and not governing, then we've got a real problem.
Hey,
and that's where we've been.
Congressman Yarmuth, someone, and this hadn't occurred to me, but I watched the dynamic and the power that Joe Manchin has right now from West Virginia. And someone made an interesting point. Are the other 49 Democrats in the Senate just sheep? They're just, no matter what you put forward? Why does he have so much power that he's not, he's the one that might differ on one slight little thing in this bill? How do you expect to ever get a Republican to move on anything if you're so solidly just going to go with whatever, Speaker Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the president want? How can you expect Republicans to want to come and negotiate when, you only got one guy that would even raise the possibility of not going along with the whole thing?
Yeah, well, the Senate is a strange body, and it's basically, it was a minority veto situation before Joe Manchin became the pivotal vote. He's not. I mean, Kirsten Sinema is another person who has said she doesn't want to do away with the filibuster and has trouble with some of the provisions of the bill, of this proposal. But by the way, there is no bill yet. All we've seen is an outline from the Biden administration. And when I was briefed by the White House, they said, we're looking for your ideas. Because I asked them, for instance, if any of this plan was intended to leverage private capital in any way. And they said, oh, yeah, we think that it should be a part of it. But that's not in any of the material that's come out. So there's a real opportunity here, and it's everybody's first choice to do it on a bipartisan basis. There's every opportunity for Republicans to have input into this legislation and to take it out of the hands of Joe Manchin, which I wish Republicans would.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.